Have you ever felt like someone disappeared on you into thin air after sharing laughs, time, or even intimacy with them? Ghosting is a modern haunting that doesn't just spook your inbox, but it breaks your heart and rattles your confidence. It's the emotional equivalent of a vanishing act. One moment, there's connection, the next, silence. In this episode, we're unpacking the very real emotional and psychological toll of ghosting and how it differs from the no contact rule. You'll hear my personal experience, the surprising research, and what you can do to move forward when someone vanishes without a trace. Whether you've been ghosted, tempted to ghost someone else, or trying to make sense of your romantic patterns, this conversation will help you reclaim your power, protect your heart, and show up with elegance and intention in love.
Becoming the magnificently empowered, strong and gracefully, with poise and elegance endlessly. I am who I was born to be.
Welcome to Becoming, Conversations in Elegance and Empowerment, where we explore living with purpose, grace, and confidence. I'm Senée, your host, author, and transformation guide. This isn't just a podcast, it's a conversation, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Visit becomingpublishing.com to grab your free guide, Exquisitely Dealing with Stress, and join the conversation by leaving a comment. Now, let's dive into today's topic. It's almost Halloween, and many people are preparing to hand out candy to children in all kinds of costumes and attend adult parties. I heard in 2024 that Texas, or maybe Dallas in particular, was the number 3 area for selling Halloween decorations. While some of the churches we attended when I was growing up frowned on celebrating the holiday because of the negative spiritual implications, there were usually alternative ways to participate. When I was a little girl, I loved Halloween because it was the one day of the year when I could dress up like anyone I wanted and get free candy. All that changed when I was in late elementary school and a caregiver threw a smelly rubber monster mask on my head and a raincoat on me and made me go door to door trick-or-treating. I cried the entire time and swore off ever dressing up again. I really haven't. What I dislike even more about the holiday is being scared. I talked about defeating fear in a previous episode that you might want to listen to if you're feeling frightened these days. But what I want to discuss in this conversation is a different kind of fear, ghosting. Stay tuned because we're going to dive deep into the topic. If you're ready for more than just inspiration, if you want tailored transformational support on your journey, visit becomingpublishing.com to explore my private coaching and guided programs. You don't have to do this alone. Ray Parker Jr. sang, "I Ain't Afraid of No Ghosts" in his song Ghostbusters. I think it's pretty safe to say that after experiencing being ghosted several times, when someone you think you have a connection with turns into Casper the Unfriendly Ghost and disappears, you do become afraid of it. I'm deep into writing a whole book on this subject, but let me share with you some of the insights from it. There are differences between ghosting and no contact. It's my personal and professional opinion that ghosting is something masculine energy people do to feminine energy people. It was defined by a 2018 research study conducted by Gilly Freeman, Darcy N. Powell, and Benjamin Lee, published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships as, quote, ending a relationship by cutting off all contact, end quotes. No contact, in contrast, is cutting off contact for a specified period of time, generally for 8 weeks, in order for both parties to clearly see if they want to continue a relationship. Feminine energy people, who I will refer to as women here, using the no contact rule, have every intention of wanting a relationship. Masculine energy people, who I will call men in this conversation, ghost or cut off all contact for good. They do so to end a relationship without the courtesy of letting the other person know it's over or give them closure. I first experienced being ghosted by a guy when I was in my 20s. It was difficult to take because I was 25, ready to settle down and get married, and he was the first guy I had let get close to me. I was bonded after about 4 months, but he turned into Casper the Unfriendly Ghost and disappeared out of my life. Around that time, Carrie Bradshaw on Sex and the City was complaining about Berger breaking up with her on a Post-it note. I was begging for a Post-it note, notebook paper, scrap of paper, back of a McDonald's receipt, anything. I was left wondering if he was ever coming back and why he disappeared. I experienced the most severe form of ghosting in a very serious relationship. At the time, I thought my life was over, but that harsh treatment actually led to my transformation. I thought that this was the biggest lesson I had to learn and that I would never have to go through this experience again. But the COVID-19 lockdown of 2020 brought even more ghosting, although it was in a much less damaging way since I was not married or committed to these men. I had spent more than 5 years of my life healing my broken heart from my most devastating relationship experience and was ready to date and find love again. What I did not expect was to be stood up and ghosted. I'd never seen or experienced anything like it before in my dating life. I remember telling a close friend that it seemed during the 8 years that I was in a relationship or not dating at all that men had become lazy. They didn't want to take a woman to dinner, get to know her, or even spend time with her outside the bedroom. I'm just not that kind of girl, so I was finding navigating the dating scene very frustrating and exhausting. I had no shortage of men wanting to talk to me, but a funny thing happened while I was sheltering in place alone during the lockdowns. My intuition was heightened, and I was not only able to sense a person's intention face to face, but I was beginning to know their intentions just by looking at their photographs. That was great for weeding out the ones who were clearly up to no good. However, the few I really did like ended up ghosting me too, for no apparent reason. I had become friends with a guy on one of the dating sites, and I asked him one day why guys ghost women, and specifically why I was being ghosted. His response was, "There are a couple of different things that may be going on. The person may not be who they are portraying themselves to be, so kind of like a catfish. They may be talking to so many women that a better offer, in their opinion, comes up, but we both know that's not possible." The smiley face he added made that one sting a little less. He continued, "It might be a game to them. They may secretly hate women. They may completely lack manners and just change their mind minute by minute. They're definitely enjoying the chase, but maybe they don't want to catch anyone. I think the bottom line is that meeting someone face to face is a lot more nerve-wracking than talking over an app or messaging, so they're just not ready or real." Now this could explain guys you're talking to online and have never met, but it doesn't explain guys you dated or have been in a relationship with. In a blog post on MarsVenus.com, Lauren Gray explained the differences men and women have in ending connections and how they can just disappear even after only one date, what we call ghosting. Quote, "Men don't respond with, 'I'm just not interested, stop texting me,' because it's easier to ignore the problem than to deal with it and be the bad guy," end quote. Scientific research backs this statement up. The 2018 study by Freeman, Powell, and Lee found 25% of the participants had been ghosted by a partner. 1/5 reported they had ghosted someone themselves. I find these numbers to be outrageously small in comparison to what I've personally experienced. I would guess the numbers are much higher. A survey conducted in 2018 by Rebecca B. Kostler at the University of Western Ontario found that 65% of participants had previously ghosted a partner, while 72% reported that they had been ghosted by a partner. These numbers appear more accurate to me based on the reports of clients, friends, and my own experiences. Kostler's findings reported that ghosting disengagers reported the least amount of distress. This means that Casper the unfriendly ghost had the least amount of emotions compared to the person who was ghosted. She further explained that, quote, "ghosting breakups were characterized by greater use of avoidance/withdrawal and distance/mediated communication tactics, and less open confrontation and positive tone/self-blame tactics. Distinct differences between ghosting and direct conversation strategies suggest developments in technology have influenced traditional processes of relationship dissolution," end quote. To translate for you, Texting and messaging have offered the coward's way out and given us a multi-generational crop of men who don't have the guts to tell a woman that they no longer want to see her again, or even that they're leaving and never coming back. At least Alfalfa from the Little Rascals had the guts to write Darla a note telling her, quote, "Dear Darla, I hate your stinking guts," end quote. The truth is, he loved her deeply and would do anything to please her. He was just fronting for his buddies in the He-Man Woman Haters Club. I wish I could say this was a tactic used by younger generations who were raised in a home without a strong masculine father figure, but I can't. I've seen it cross-generationally. My girlfriends used to tell me that they would only date men older than 40 because they were the only ones who would pay for dates, open doors, and not just want to Netflix and chill. I can't say that's the case today because when I was in the dating scene 4 years ago, I experienced it from men in all age ranges. My husband has told me that it isn't just men turning into Casper. He experienced it from women while he was in the dating scene too. I'm even seeing potential employers do this to job seekers. Now, I have to say that some girly girls actually do cut off contact with no intention to ever re-engage. This is primarily because they feel threatened, bullied, or abused by a man, and the only way they can see out is to disappear. Most of the time, they try talking and setting clear boundaries, but the behaviors still persist. These aren't typical cases, but they do happen. Coming up, I'll explain more about going into no contact and what you can do to ease the sting of being ghosted. Gratitude season is in full swing, and this episode is brought to you by Becoming Grateful, the Elegant Woman's 45-day gratitude experience, a 3-tier guided experience designed for women ready to reclaim joy, peace, and emotional wealth. Whether you want to journal at your own pace, listen on the go, or dive into a private breakthrough session, there's a path for you. Visit becomingpublishing.com to learn more or tap the link in the show notes. For a limited time only, use coupon code podcast10 at checkout for $10 off the self-guided gratitude journal experience. I mentioned going into no contact earlier, but let me explain what it is. It was actually created by Dr. Patricia Allen, a psychologist in Southern California, and written about in her 1990s book, Getting to I Do. A girlfriend of mine told me about it and gave me the book to read more than a decade ago at the onset of a breakup I was going through. Dr. Allen taught her female clients to use this technique to give the men in their lives the space and distance they needed to decide if a relationship with them was what they really wanted. Emotional detachment and clarity typically begin around 6 to 8 weeks of no contact for people recovering from breakups. This timeline is often recommended by relationship therapists to allow emotional regulation and reevaluation of attachments. I experienced these results when I used this method in my own breakups. A 2022 study published in Personality and Individual Differences found that intentional emotional distancing after breakups significantly reduced rumination and improved self-concept clarity within 1 to 2 months. Dr. Allen said in her book that this technique should be used by women who ultimately want marriage. I say it can be used if you're looking for a long-term exclusive relationship, since some people today aren't focused on being married. It's important to note that this method only applies to someone you have dated. If you're married and separated, this doesn't apply since you have shared bills, children, family, and responsibilities. You can't go without communicating. You can, but it speaks volumes about your character in a very negative way. I don't recommend it. Dr. Allen also explained in her book that this method should only be used by women on men to help them open their hearts and realize when they actually love a woman and want to commit to a marriage relationship. There are some so-called relationship experts online who advise men to use it on women. This is a huge mistake. Do you know what happens when a man uses this method on a woman? Dr. Allen didn't cover this in her book, but I'll tell you from experience in countless conversations with women in this situation. From the first day of no contact, the woman's mind starts racing through all the things the man might be doing, with most of them on the list being negative. By the time the woman has gone through every possible negative scenario and the man is ready to call her in 6 to 8 weeks to tell her that he wants to be with her, she's past being sad and lonely and is downright angry. I mean mad. Actually, this is where the magic comes in for a woman who has gone through this process with a man who had no intention of being in her life. By the time she realizes he isn't coming back, she is so mad that she has the confidence needed to move on rather than waste her life waiting for him. So be warned, if you're a man, don't even bother doing this to a woman. It will backfire on you and have a very negative outcome. So what can you do to heal your heart and move on when you've been ghosted? First, understand that ghosting says more about the person who disappears than it ever will about you. They chose avoidance over integrity. You, however, have a choice to choose yourself. I've written about it for years. Rejection is actually protection. I've lived life long enough to know that not everything that looks like rejection actually is. So many times in life, the sting of rejection can be so strong and debilitating that we can't see it's actually protection disguised as rejection. When I look back over my life at all the experiences I've had, I've allowed myself to feel the love and joy in particular moments and be grateful that I was honored to experience them. I've also looked at the deep rejection I have felt from people and realized that if they had not rejected me, I would have been in a miserable position at the very least. In some cases, it could have cost me my life. If you're encountering ghosting in this season, this is the time to return to your self-love practice. Not the bubble bath version, but the grounded, radical, elegant form of love where you show up for yourself with honesty and compassion. I recommend that you go back to the basics. Journal your truth, reaffirm your value, focus on the negative things they did or the ways in which they weren't a perfect match, and rebuild your sense of worth from within. A 2016 study published in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology found that journaling and saying affirmations during post-breakup silence helped individuals reclaim identity and recover self-worth, particularly for women practicing intentional withdrawal. I create personalized affirmations for my clients going through this. I also recommend that this is the one time in life where they need to focus on the negative things about the man who disappeared by making the bad list of all his negative qualities and reading it every day and every time they begin to want them back. The hard truth is this: if he was your divine match, he would still be with you. It doesn't mean that he won't come back, but begging, chasing, and stopping your life for him won't help the situation and usually makes it worse. Men are hunters and chasers. It's a woman's job to be open and receptive, but also wise enough to guard her heart. There's a lot to this 8-week no-contact process that I'm going in depth about in the book, but something you can do right now is to revisit your Becoming the Magnificent Me framework by asking yourself, what parts of me did I compromise to be with this person? What warning signs did I ignore? What do I now know I need and deserve in my life? This is the perfect opportunity to reframe his silence as your divine redirection. If a man didn't see your light or chose to disappear, it's only because he wasn't meant to walk with you into the next season. I'd advise you to gracefully release him and let your heart return to its rightful owner, you. I strongly recommend that you do not chase ghosts. I'm quite certain that you are not a professional ghostbuster, and even they end up getting slimed from time to time. When you elegantly walk away with your head held high, you become the woman they regret disappearing on. So, let your magnificence shine, my dear, even during ghosting season. Thank you so much for spending time with me on Becoming, Conversations in Elegance and Empowerment. Was there something in this episode that resonated with you? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you're ready to take your personal growth to the next level, visit becomingpublishing.com to explore my exclusive coaching programs and resources tailored for ambitious women like you. There you can also download your free guide, Exquisitely Dealing with Stress. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who's ready to create the magnificent life and relationships they truly deserve. Until next time, stay elegant, stay empowered.